Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. My picture may be shaking sometimes because we have from time to time quite a strong wind. It changes all the time. There may be even a thunderstorm coming. We'll see. You are pure light. You are pure consciousness. You are pure love. You are pure energy. All that is a basic natural joyousness. Let us not forget that. It's in this period very important that we keep on reminding ourselves. There is such a heaviness in the atmosphere around the globe, and I see how it is pressing down on the mood of the people. How easy it is to be irritable, be gloomy, just in a bad mood. And the best way not go along with that energy that tries to do so is to do the opposite. This heaviness tries to cut the conscious connection with that purity that is there. So it's very important to remind ourselves. The best way not to slither down that dark spiral is to remain at ease and as cheerful as we can. And we can much easier be like that by remembering. No matter what is happening, no matter what is going on, I am pure consciousness. I am pure love. I'm pure light. I'm pure energy. Out of this, everything comes in manifestation. This is the base of manifestation, the first expression of your true nature that cannot be described. We can connect consciously. We are always connected, but we can connect consciously. But as the influences are so strong to pull us in another direction, we need to make that little effort of reminding ourselves connect consciously with that purity, with that pure innocence that is first, prior to all that exists. And we can do so. The mere remembrance will immediately connect. Maybe out of habit we immediately forget again, but still we can consciously connect. The more we are doing so, the more it will come easier and naturally. that we just relax and are in that awareness of being connected. If that awareness is there, it's easy to be cheerful because we are aware in that pure innocence there is a joyousness that is not caused by anything, which is simply an aspect of existence. It's always there. Many people may have to face difficult circumstances. It may even get worse in the near future. Who knows? All the signs point in that direction. But in spite of that, we can connect with that pure innocence. Be aware that there is a joyousness of existence that is not affected by whatever is going on. Let us start our days remembering, no matter what is going to happen, let me remember to connect. Let me spend some time where I'm doing nothing else, but consciously connect as good as I can. And then let that attitude, that remembrance be there as much as possible in all our activities, in our interactions with people, in all that is going on, all that we hear what's going on. That base is not affected by it. We are connected. Consciously connecting simply means becoming aware that that connection is always there, that we cannot ever be cut off. But this heaviness that is there tries to cut off our conscious connection. It is a force that tries to do so. And the best way of not obeying that force is doing the exact opposite. All right. And now I'm coming to a question. A friend wrote to me. She's engaged in spiritual practices intensively right now. Then the external situation is that sooner or later the money runs out. And then there comes the thought, what am I going to do? And ideas are coming of what has been done before. Proposals are coming, and always that feeling is there. Oh, it doesn't feel right. It's not coming from the heart, it's coming from the mind. Well, my dear friend, as long as it works, not to earn money, fine. You can think like this, but otherwise, what is wrong with doing something of which you think, okay, it's totally man-created, or it's totally coming from the mind, knowing, all right, it may not be for long, it may not be forever, but I can do things just to earn enough money that I can continue my spiritual practices. And then while doing so, also remember to connect. Remember that there is an aspect that is not affected. At least to bridge over when there are just no more means. But never mind if it doesn't look very spiritual, if it looks not in tune with doing that spiritual practice, with doing the yoga, with going in that direction, then never mind. You can see it, observe it, and not identify with it. And then you can earn your money that you can continue your practice. Why not? And then eventually something may come along that feels more in harmony with what you want, with what you really, with the direction you really are going. But if it is necessary to bridge over, then don't feel so reluctant doing things that you did before. If you know that you can make money with it, if that helps you, that money, that you can continue your spiritual search, your spiritual practice, whatever you are doing now. But then she says that then there sometimes is also a conflict. All desires come up out of nowhere. Surprisingly, suddenly there come desires up that also are contrary to the direction where she is right now. Like desires like desire for a family, for a baby, for a husband, for a house, for fruit trees. Never mind that. Do that now which you feel is the right thing to do. And what I can understand, that's really continuing what you are doing now. And even if then this kind of out of old habits, these kind of desires come up, you can let them come, you can watch them, they come, they go. That doesn't mean if you are not going after them, that this kind of things won't be possible eventually in future, in a period where you may be capable of combining the two, and then suddenly it doesn't look like two so separate things. But since obviously right now it's not what you want to do, then just don't get disturbed by them. Don't get doubts about what you are doing because of them. Just when they come, these thoughts, these feelings, these desires, let them come, watch them, see what they are doing, and let them go again. And continue your way where you are on now. And I'm sure where you are really sincerely interested. Even if now, just for argument's sake, even if you would decide now, okay, it comes again and again, so I have to do another thing, and then would go in search for these things, in search for a husband, in search for this, in search for that, then usually it doesn't just work like that. We are running in a lot of problems and expecting things to happen, and then they happen very differently, and in the end we can spend lots of time running after things, finding out it wasn't that, running after something else. Be with yourself here now and follow that urge that is genuine to go deeper in your practice, deeper in your self-discovery, and then you still can be open. Let the way go its own natural path, and in the future, maybe some of these things may materialize without you having to change directions or run after them. But if it's right, then they will just start to happen. But maybe as the time passes, you lose the interest. Maybe these old desires gradually fade away and don't mean anything. I'm not saying that's how it is, but for the time being, Even when they come, don't feel disturbed. Don't let them put doubts in your mind about what you're doing now. And if it is necessary to be able to continue what you're doing by earning money in ways that you are not too happy about doing, so what? Do it detachedly, playfully, knowing it serves the purpose that I can continue doing what I'm doing because that feels right. Right. So I drop the subject with that. And I'm asking you, my friends, is there anybody here who would like to come in and say something? You are welcome. I see we are numerous today. Courage, my friends. If you want to talk, you are welcome.
Hi, Werner.
Hello, Andreas.
Last time you talked about the difference between, or like you mentioned, like energy and consciousness as like ways of practice.
Yes.
Could you say something more about it? Like, what is the practice of when you do like energy, concentrate on energy, and what is how is the difference when you concentrate on consciousness?
Right. First, I want to say, no matter which side you choose, they more and more, the deeper you go, they more and more come together. But you can give a different emphasis. Like on the jnana approach, you are focusing mainly on consciousness. No matter whether how you are doing it, by simply observing the mind and detaching from the mind, you are focusing more on consciousness. By doing self-inquiry, asking the question, who am I? You are focusing on consciousness. For the question is not a question that has an answer, but simply helps us to turn the attention away from whatever we are thinking and feeling and experiencing to back to that consciousness, that pure consciousness that makes the experience possible. Now the yogi is focusing more on prana. And somehow we have to become friends with prana. I have to become friends with the energy. The yogi may do all kinds of exercises. And if it's done with the right attitude, then those exercises help the yogi to become more aware of the prana, of the energy that flows through the body, becoming aware of the blocks of energy, learning to relax them, and tuning more and more into a cosmic prana, a cosmic energy. But even if somebody is not interested in much physical exercises or systematic pranayamas, simply by consciously breathing, watching the breath, one automatically starts to become subtler and subtler aware of the energy. And we can consciously open up to that, not simply be stuck with the physical aspect of the breath, but be aware, actually, if we breathe, there is much more happening than just air that is pumped in and out of the body. There is a basic energy of life there, which is always involved. And the more we are opening up to that, simply by consciously breathing, you are focusing more and more on that life force.
And what's the right attitude?
The right attitude is like when I said, if the yogi does those exercises with the right attitude, that those exercises are done in the spirit that I'm becoming more self-aware. And not simply like doing exercises in order to develop nice big muscles and a good health and show off with the beauty of my body and stuff like that. For yoga is taught very much in that spirit also right now all over the world, that it's more like just to make the body healthy and beautiful, not to become more self-aware, but to be capable of showing off better. Nothing wrong making the body beautiful and healthy, but then that it becomes a beautiful, wonderful expression through which we can easier connect on this physical level, but that is also not disturbing our connection to the source. For that, it's good to have a healthy body. For a sick body, is making it more difficult.
And when you do like breathing meditation, then is it like that the two aspects of consciousness and energy merge slowly?
If we are go about it sincerely, definitely, no matter which approach we are choosing, they merge more and more. The one who is focusing more on consciousness will be more also focused on the mental disturbances, tries to be at ease, at peace, and then there comes this emotional stuff and mental stuff, focusing on that, learning to calm that down. Automatically the prana also will balance out and flow freer. If the practice is sincere, this is bound to happen. On the other hand, the yogi who learns to be more and more aware of the prana, learns to harmonize the prana, learns to undo the knots of the flow of the light force, will feel more and more relaxed, and the mind automatically will calm down and consciousness will be there, purer and purer. It has to come together, but we can give more emphasis on one aspect or the other, or we can combine them consciously from the beginning. That's also possible.
Yeah. I have the feeling that I waste a lot of energy by just being obsessed with my petty little self-concerns.
Right, then it's good when they are too insistent to then you may have to focus sometimes on particular concerns, but you can also learn to just, when you see it's there, to redirect the attention. In that way, you are not suppressing them. You just redirect your interest. So when you see in the mind it's going on and worrying about things that you don't really need to worry about, then instead of somehow trying to control it, you just redirect the attention to consciously breathe in, breathe out, relax.
Yeah, if I'm getting aware of it, half the job is already done.
Right. As long as we are not aware that we are doing it, we cannot do anything. Once we become aware, there I'm going again, there we can consciously influence the situation.
Sometimes.
Sometimes we can at least attempt consciously, that we can. We may be more or less successful from one time to another. And it doesn't really lay in your hands so totally whether or not you are successful. But whether you attempt it or not, that does lie in your hands. By
Thank you very
attempting
much.
it again and again, gradually it's becoming easier.
Thank you
Okay.
very much again.
You're welcome. Hario. Hario.
Hario.
Is there anybody else who would like to come in? You're welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Leora.
Hi. So when I'm involved in a situation that brings emotions, difficult emotions, let's say a conversation with somebody, which the conversation itself is okay. Like, let's say we don't get into a disagreement or just like more of a sharing. I'm talking about a specific person. So she tells me stuff, and then I'm supposed to be rather diplomatic because she's my daughter-in-law, and I love her, and the content is difficult. So I'm satisfied with how I'm doing it, and then I'm going home. And it leaves, as the word I've heard from you, like it leaves traces.
Yes.
Meaning that I don't feel I have the need actually to ruminate on that, to rethink or because I can see very clearly she's in a sort of despair. She sees me as a person who she can share things. I have to be diplomatic, so I can't. I mean, I also don't want to get into it too much. But as I say, the subject is rather painful. So it leaves traces. I come home. So what I feel is sort of restlessness, and I'm not that happy, but I'm okay. I have a difficulty to fall asleep, which I usually don't have. I fall asleep easily, but I don't sleep so well through the night. But usually I don't have difficulty to fall asleep.
Because it's still turning in your head.
Well, it leaves sort of heaviness on my soul and on my system somehow. It's not really turning, as I said. I don't, because I feel that I'm doing exactly what I have to do there. I don't feel I had to say or didn't have to say and all that, because usually I just don't say much. I just don't say much.
Right.
But it's sad. It's a sad, and it's connected, of course, with my son and yeah. So yeah, it's like more of a sharing, really. I feel it needs time. And I have to deal with as I say, with the traces, with the difficult emotions, with the pain. And I also feel that it's okay. It could have been worse, really.
Right, right.
So I just wonder if you have any insight about it.
Sure.
And I need to turn off the gas. So I'm taking the computer with myself. And, yeah. Sure, yeah.
Shall I talk?
Listening.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm listening.
When two people communicate, then of course it's not simply the words that are happening. There is always an energetic connection. It's like a circle that goes to and fro from both persons. Anybody who communicates, anybody who talks with somebody else, there is not simply the words that are being exchanged, but there are also energies exchanged. And then if you really open up to somebody who is obviously feeling a lot of sorrow and has heavy emotions, then those emotions, those energies, they will come into our system. It is not that you should now learn to protect yourself and somehow not let them in. Let them come. But you have to learn to become more transparent. That even if they come in, that they can quickly leave.
Yeah.
And if after that, when you go home and you feel still that heaviness lingering, then don't try to brush it away and wonder whether you did something wrong. No, it's natural that you have charged your system quite with that sad energy, with that energy of pain and sorrow. And then consciously let that experience come to the surface and see how it works. And don't try to somehow deny it or push it away. Okay, it's there, but you, instead of struggling with it, you relax and accept it's there and relax. And in that relaxation, you give it the possibility to quickly disappear. And if you treat it like that, it won't stay long. Maybe in the beginning, when we start doing so, it's still staying longer, but if we continue doing so, gradually it's going quicker and quicker. And eventually we can much more also do it right in the conversation. Be aware that there is not simply the conversation, but there is also that energetic exchange. Invariably, it's there. The person who is in sorrow feels relieved because they sort of discharging but a bit of their burden into another person, into another system, a psychophysical system, and make it back a purer and lighter energy. So for that, they feel relieved, but for you, it feels like more of a burden. But the more you can relax, be aware of it and relax even in the situation, the more you become transparent. It comes, it's there, and it immediately disappears again. And even if that does not happen, if traces are there, if you do it after that like that, they don't stick around for long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, because like I'm talking about something that happened yesterday, and today, this morning, I was full of good positive energy, and the weather was beautiful, and I went to the forest, and really I could feel actually full of love and positivity in spite of in spite of that, and in spite of what's going on all around me. So yeah, it was a good pointing.
Right. And it becomes easier if we consciously do that. When I start to become aware that this is happening, how my system is charged, when I discuss with people, then I learn to be aware how it's also not so difficult to let it go out. But there was a period always after such a moment, I really had to sort of be by myself and breathe and relax and be conscious how this thing is sort of again evaporating out of the system. And then as the time passed, it became easier and easier, and just the awareness, it's there and relaxing, and it's already gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and that like builds up the muscles of the
the capacity
heart or whatever.
the capacity
yeah.
continues increasing then of
yeah
absorbing relative negative energy, and then be able to relax and let it go.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
You are welcome. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Okay. If anybody else would like to come in, you're welcome.
Werner.
Hello, Anita.
Hello. I have a little bit similar subject. It's that I'm encountering with people situations where they get angry at me,
yeah,
or whatever, and then and so I always look for a way of of being in peace and harmony, and I have a friend which is very dear to me actually, and for many years, and she's also on the spiritual path, and it has been since I know her, she has this attitude of getting really angry, and also with her partner, and I was watching it and trying to, oh please, can you not make peace or this, and then she would get angry at me. Then
yes.
then I stopped doing that, and it's continuing like that. She's really getting quite emotional, and also now it's like also she's getting some intoxication kind of, and I totally stopped doing that, and now it's for me so off, and I don't know how to, I mean, I think the last years I never ever said, okay, when we were in peace and happy together, let's talk about this, because I'm again afraid of conflict.
Yeah.
And it's just so many years, and now last Saturday something happened again, and I said it's enough. I have had it. I don't want to spend time with you anymore, and that. And then she came to me and said, "But I love you," and this was very weird for me. And then later she sent me a message. No, she called me next day and said, "Oh, shall we meet and talk?" And I said, "Okay." And before the meeting on the day in the morning, I felt like, no, I have to work the next day, and I really need the energy. And nowadays my energy is not so good. And so I said, no, let's do that when you come back from she's traveling somewhere. And then she said, don't talk with other people and don't do mobbing and things like that. And now I know how important the friendship is for you, that you don't want to meet me, and so on. Anyway, actually, I don't see that this issue is going to be solved in a conversation, because she always puts an emphasis on that Anita, you have to learn to fight, and anger is fine, and you have to learn it, and you know you have to do it. And I say no, and then at one point she was so crazy and angry and wild, and I say, don't you remember you do meditation and you know about ahimsa? Because it was really so wild, and she made her way around, and ahimsa, this word, as if she doesn't know it, or didn't want to connect with that because she's so. Anyway, but I know in my life I'm often also in relationships encountering this, that the other person is so angry, and okay, I ask myself, what is it? And I can only go back to my childhood and see that my parents were very fighting a lot and angry. Yeah. So it seems like this is a pattern that I go back, I don't, and still I encounter that. Yeah, okay, I breathe afterwards, I let it go, but in a situation, it's then of course, then I sometimes also get angry. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It happens.
Yeah, huh? It happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, you have to do that which you find is right, and not which the other finds right. And so if in a particular situation you think it's just too much and it's hopeless that we can't come to any harmonious resolve of that situation, you have also the right, okay, let's keep distance for some time, even if they don't like it. On the other hand, okay, it seems right that there is a pattern, that something in you searches out such situations, that they happen again and again. That means you have to somehow learn to deal with them, with those situations, without letting yourself be put into despair because of it. Okay. And there are two ways to deal with them, that either you learn to confront angry people and don't care about it, and to just let them blast out their stuff, and you still remain centered in yourself, and then they cool down eventually by themselves. Or that you say in such situation, okay, I see there is nothing constructive, it doesn't make any sense, so let's keep a distance, without after that feeling a bad conscience, without feeling then, oh, I'm not doing the right thing, I should have done it differently. In both cases, you are at ease with yourself, and that's the main part. If you let yourself be pushed and pulled into situations which you don't want repeatedly, and it's always ending a bit in the same way, and you don't like it, but you still let yourself be manipulated into it, then there is always that nagging feeling, oh, why am I doing this? And that is draining you, that is weakening you. Choose the strength and not the weakness. Choose to be strong. And this can manifest, as I said, it can depends also the situation, can manifest in different ways. It can be that you are just not taking it serious. If somebody shouts and is angry and says all kinds of funny things, you will just pass it by and wait until the storm is over, that you can talk again. Or you say, hey, that's enough. I don't need to take this all the time. And so let's make a distance, even if it's temporary, It's a good, strong decision that you do what you feel is right and not to be pulled against your will into things after that you regret that you did it and you think, oh, it's hopeless and I should be able to change them. You should not be able to change them. Change how you deal with the situation.
But would you say there is any good reason or that it's or there's anything good in, let's say, propagating or doing fights that is important to fight, that is good and important to fight with each other and get angry? Or I mean, I know this can happen, but to say that this is really kind of sounds like it's really healthy to do that.
No, I don't think it's healthy, but some people have such a mental setup that they need that in order to sort of have an intensity and maybe even to help them to become a bit more self-aware. But it's an unhealthy way to do so.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that you have to let yourself put this doubt in the mind by somebody who tells you, you should now become a fighter and fight with people. If you feel like doing so, you can, but I don't think that's what you need to do.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's, for me, it's the first point is really to listen to myself, what I need or what is good for me, and also to set borders. Yeah.
But have the courage to say things that you feel is right and not suppress them out of fear that it could give a bad reaction.
Exactly. That's why I always didn't talk about this, bring it up. Yeah.
If you feel that is necessary, that you can have a good relationship with somebody, that you talk about certain issues, then have the courage to talk about it with the awareness that it may lead to such fights that maybe it breaks up the relationship for some time. Yes.
Right.
Because otherwise you just hold on to that friendship, that relationship, because you're afraid of being more alone, afraid that the other person is not happy about me. That is a strength. You need not necessarily become a fighter, but that is a strength that you should develop. That as long as you are okay with what you do and what you say, that you learn not to care whether the others like it or not.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. There's some nasty smoke in the air. I hope I'm not starting coughing all the time. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to come in? You're welcome.
Yeah.
Leora again?
Yeah, because Anita spoke also about the relationships and it brought some thoughts to my head. You know, I remember when my mother, when she had a major stroke, she's had a difficult life, like emotionally, she was, hard, difficult, So when she was in this, just after the stroke, she said, I remember she said to my sister, let's argue a little bit because I'm bored. And this happened more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember it as a actually very important teaching. And they also wonder, like, when there is a relationship, let's say with one person, and there is an interaction, and as we mentioned before, you mentioned, I mentioned, there is what we think is happening between us two, but actually probably what me and the other person, we don't think the same about what's happening. Actually, maybe we even think the opposite often, or feel the opposite. And then there is something that is happening, like around, like is a result or energy, which we are probably many times not listening to or not aware of. And I often wonder, what is the truth? I mean, and I get to a place where I have just to say, trust your feelings, your emotions, your well-being, not well-being. And again, don't try to analyze what has happened so much. And if I go back to what you said to Anita about creating conflicts with people in order, because some people have this need, like my mother, because she couldn't, maybe she couldn't, not maybe, I know her, I knew, yeah, she couldn't really feel love and loved, and she had her problems. So when arguing, it maybe made her more real somehow, specifically when she had a stroke and she was kind of. And then there's this thing about, I want to show somebody I love them, so maybe I would say things to them. Recently, I feel maybe I would just like look at them with good eyes and smile to them and express softness rather than saying things, rather than using the words. I actually have noticed that this is really working. It somehow softens the area around, like, because we are not here as a me. There's like, we are connected. There is an area around. So it softens everything and it becomes like one. And the energy is like changing all the time and maybe unclear, but it does its thing.
Sure. And you, as a participant, can influence that. Before what you said in a sentence, yes, you may have understand the situation that very different, and we don't really know what is the truth, but the truth is you are the truth.
But not me the way I think about me.
That doesn't mean that everything you think is true, but you are true.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Your thoughts may be influenced by old habits and opinions and experiences, and maybe sometimes off and sometimes right. But you are true. That which is prior to the opinion. And when there is like a bit an argument, and you can remember and have that presence of mind to bring the attention back to that and relax in that, then actually that that's when you bring most of that energy into the situation that you describe now at the end. Not by being right or not being right, not by convincing or not convincing the other person, or being convinced by the other person, or agreeing or disagreeing, but by connecting with that which is prior to opinions, and relax. And then something very beautiful and strong flows in the situation that invariably will influence all who participate.
Right.
That's also the point of satsang. When people come, sometimes people ask me, why should we come if we are already dead? What's the point in coming here and talk about it? And so that's the point of satsang, that you come and you communicate with somebody who is maybe carrying less of a mental burden. And then in that presence, it's easier to start to drop one's own frustrations and one's own hang-ups than when they are always with somebody who confronts everything that they are letting out.
There's like a natural movement of balancing which is happening,
Right.
like in the garden with flowers and the weeds and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Werner.
You're
Again.
welcome. Hariom. Hariom.
Hariom.
Is there anybody else who would like to say something? Okay, let's come back a little moment to that, the need to fight. If we have in our own mind destructive tendencies and we become aware, then of course we start to fight them. But then the way to overcome them is to learn to accept that they are there, learn how they are functioning, and learn to relax. And then gradually, whatever is there that is undesirable has a chance to disappear. But invariably, when we become aware of traits that we don't like, that have been there all the time and we were not even aware, and when that awareness dawns, the tendency is there to fight that. And for a moment, it may be fine. Okay, simply to make that awareness of an aspect that is undesirable stronger. But by fighting it, we also strengthening it. And learning then to accept it is there, even if I don't like it. Accept that it's there, but not as a victim. I cannot do anything. Okay, it's there. I can observe it. And in observing, becoming aware, there is an aspect of me not involved, not affected. And in that observation, we can start to consciously relax. And in that relaxation, we are detaching. And in that detachment, all the pent-up energies that are there in the subconscious, that are locked in a certain pattern, have a chance to gradually disappear. That's how we learn not to fight against ourselves all the time. Now with people, it's a bit the same thing. And some people really need fights in order to feel alive. Like Leora's mother said, let's have an argument because I'm bored. And I have observed people living together for years and years and years, and their main mode was fighting each other, but more I understood, that's how they are feeling somewhat life. That's why they are sticking it out, because it's no fun to be there and be most of the time fighting. So it's not a way to resolve difficulties. Sometimes it's perfectly valid that we insist on a point. We can go that far, but not farther. No need of putting up a big fight. Just we can be clear about it. Sometimes an argument may not be avoidable, so there may be an argument there, but we can learn to be more aware of ourselves, of that which is not affected, instead of hooking onto I'm right, the other is wrong, I'm right, the other is wrong. And then we can learn that we don't need to fight. And actually, we are much more alive. It's a very gross, unhealthy way of feeling alive by fighting, trying to resolve problems by fighting. If it's unavoidable, okay, we can fight. But we don't have to have that attitude that something I have to develop because that is a strength that I need. There is much more strength in simply being capable to be centered. Learn to connect that which is not affected in a tough situation, then lash out and fight back. Sometimes we may also superficially get into the argument and be quite loud and strong about it and still be capable to be aware, hey, not take it so serious. Deep down, I'm absolutely not affected by it. It's a greater strength to be capable to be calm than to fight. But it's a greater strength to fight than to be afraid. So if that is necessary as a step to be overcome fear, to be capable of fighting, but then not think that's a mode that I should adapt now and stay with it, but then learn to come to the greater strength in fighting, to be centered, be connected with the peaceful ground. That is a far greater strength than fighting. Okay, is there somebody else who would like to come in?
Yes, Werner.
Yes. Hello,
It's the first time I joined a satsang with you.
yeah,
I
you're
was
welcome.
thank you. I
I
was
see
in
your name is Niels.
yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was in Poland last week. I did a course with my wife there, and I met Alex Sternick, and he said he knew a very kind man in India who gives good satsang. And I listened to a satsang on YouTube this week, and I thought, yes, that I will join live on Saturday.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And what to tell? This subject really resonates because my parents used to fight really a lot.
Mm.
And they went to a therapist who told them that if you are not completely honest about your emotions to each other, that if you are not showing all your anger and let it out and have it played out until it's resolved, then you will always be like a vessel under pressure, not being able to really connect to the other person, because there's really this suppressed anger between you.
Right.
And this led to my whole childhood, really ridiculous screaming all the time. And I think it really contributed to my brother when he was 33, he hung himself. And I think he took their anger into his system, and he became like angry all the time. It's a rotten way to live.
Yes.
And fortunately, with my wife, I don't have this energy.
Very good.
Still, sometimes it does come up that I get into this really angry mode, because it's in my system also. It's unavoidable if you have that for 20 years in your life. But it's only like every once in a couple of months. But then I find it very difficult to stop it. And I just go into this rage. And it's not a physical, I mean, I don't hit anybody, but I say everything I regret the next day.
Yeah, yeah.
And still, I have to learn to walk away when I feel that. Like, it's better to have a walk and breathe a little. In Poland, we were on a course with Wim Hof. He's the Iceman who teaches people to do like a crude form of pranayama and cold therapy.
Right.
I think it would be better to do some breathing than just to let all this stuff come out, because I feel I really hurt my wife when I do that.
Yeah.
And but the strange thing is, when the energy is so strong of this anger, it is like there is no room for thinking anymore. So there's no awareness of it.
Right.
It comes after, when the damage is done. So I'm still not really clear on how to stop myself at the right point and say, okay, now it's time for you to go breathing. Because it also really feels like it has to be done like that at that moment. At that moment, it feels like it absolutely has to be done like that.
Right.
And then afterwards, it's ridiculous.
Right. So what the therapist said to your parents is not totally true. Of course, if somebody has anger and doesn't express it and just suppresses it, then it's there nagging and always creating problems. And if somebody expresses it, then it's more of that energy goes out, but then it can be a very destructive way. We can also find a third way, that we don't suppress it and at the same time not destructively let that anger out, that we learn to redirect that. And for the moment, also learn to control, and then instead of suppressing it in the subconscious, learn to confront ourselves and observe the anger. Accept that the anger is there, but turn the attention back to ourselves. Now, in your situation, obviously, you have talked with your wife about it, and you can tell her that you will try to remember when it comes, instead of leashing out, that you just decide, I walk away. And she should not feel abandoned or offended if you walk away, but that you try to deal with your anger in a more constructive way by going away and deal with it yourself. And then you can do breathing. You can also just walk and not try to fight the anger then let the anger be there. Don't suppress it. But if you are then alone, then you are not hurting anyone, and you can consciously accept, okay, now I'm feeling really angry. Not fight with it and just watch what it is really doing to your own system, how it is affecting your body, how it is affecting you energetically. And by observing like this, you're not suppressing it and you're not expressing it in a destructive way. And if you have to express it in spite of that, when you're alone, you still can scream or throw pillows or do something. Or do the breathing exercises of the Iceman, if that feels like. But sometimes it may not be so easy then to go into breathing exercises. So it may be easier to just walk if you can in nature. If you can't, then on a street and walk by yourself and feel the anger and observe the anger and then gradually learn to relax. And every time it happens, you can, with yourself after that, deeply intend that you want to free yourself from that trait. But even if you intend it, even if you decide you don't want to react like this, if it's there deep rooted, the situation comes and it may come up again. And then don't feel bad about it. Don't punish yourself. Don't think, oh, I'm useless and I never can control it. Okay, accept, okay, it's still there. More work needs to be done. But the old habit has its own power, has its own momentum. And even if you decide that you detach from it, it may go on for some more time. But if you can catch yourself before you leash out, then better walk away. And when walking away, observe. But be angry. Don't try to suppress it. Then be angry and walk and feel the anger and but watch instead of justify, I'm right, they are wrong, I'm right, they are wrong. Just read.
Yes, that is what usually happens. Then
Right.
the energy is so strong, the story keeps going on and fueling the anger.
Right.
The anger fuels the story, and
Right.
then when I think I've calmed down, I come back and I just think of the story a little bit again, and then I start again. So I think that is what I need to do. That to really try to put the attention on the energy of the emotion and not
Right.
on the story,
Right.
because the story is ridiculous anyway.
Usually it's not worth the trouble when we get angry. Yeah? When you see it from a more distance, it doesn't make sense to get so much angry. So if you can somehow manage to redirect the attention from the story, because you're right, when we keep on, I'm right, they're wrong, I'm right, they're wrong, then it's a vicious circle. The anger is fueling the story fuels the anger, and it goes on and on. But if you can redirect the attention and accept, okay, there is anger. There is a lot of anger. Okay, let me be angry and focus on the emotion and the experience, what it is doing to you right now. Observe what it is doing to you physically. It's quite amazing to consciously start to observe what the strong anger can do in the body. And then gradually learn to relax, and then it will start to dissipate. If you
I
treat it,
think my
if you treat it like that repeatedly, it's getting easier. But even if the thing happens and you leash out, then okay, then the moment you become aware, you say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then if you need, you still walk away. And then when you are better, you can come back and then make amends. But if you consciously redirect the attention on the emotion, then gradually that old habit becomes weaker instead of stronger.
I think it is already a lot weaker than it used to be. So there is room for improvement.
Yes.
And if I look at my mother, she died 10 years ago, and she would have anger fits that would last for days. She would sit on the attic and play the computer, play a stupid game like solitaire, for hours and hours and hours. And if my father would dare to come up and say, "Can we not talk about this?" she would scream, "Ha, you would like that," and then start all the sourness again. And if she could only have learned to stay just with the emotion and let it dissipate, I think that would have helped her a lot.
Sure.
She really suffered with this, and I'm already grateful I'm not suffering with it in that extreme amount.
Right.
So I think this advice is what I already thought myself, but it strengthens my resolve to do it.
Very
so
good.
Thank you.
You are most welcome. I wish you well.
Thank you.
Okay, shall we leave it at that? Okay. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Is there anybody else who would like to comment? There is some more time. Let me come back to an aspect of the conversation we just had. Often it is said, don't somehow try to control your emotions. It's better to express it, otherwise they will be nagging there, they will build up. And of course, if we just by force suppress an emotion, that's what's going to happen. If we by willpower suppress it and keep it there, then slowly it will build up and will build up and be there, always nagging, and wait for a little opening to come out again. We may, for a moment, use the will to control. There's nothing wrong. But then, if it's necessary to express the emotion, then rather find a way to go away, be by yourself and express it so that nobody gets hurt. Or then we can also learn that we don't necessarily need to express that emotion, but we can fully experience it, not suppress it, not resist it, accept it's there. Even if I'm not happy about it, it's still there. And then even strong emotions, if we don't fight with it, if we don't suppress it, but just accept it's there and watch what they are doing, then we are not fueling them anymore. Then we are not giving the strength that they can go on and on and on. Invariably, they cool down by themselves. If there are strong habits, it will be difficult to be able in the situation to do that. But if we have the presence of remembering, okay, maybe better I go off, then that's already a good thing. But even if we are not capable of going off and maybe leash out destructively, what is usually happening even when the situation is over, it still goes on in the mind, it still goes on. At least there, sooner or later, we become aware, there, I'm going again, I'm doing it again. I keep it alive, I fuel it. And there we can consciously redirect the attention. Accept the emotion instead of dwelling whether I'm right or not, because it's not important. Just dwelling on the strong emotion, experience it consciously. And when we experience emotions consciously, they invariably will start to slowly go away, because we are not feeding them. We are not feeding them by fighting. We are not feeding them by justifying. We're just watching. then actually the emotions can become quite interesting. Then it's not even a bad experience anymore. If we detachedly can watch a strong emotion that used to be destructive, it comes, it's there, we watch what it is doing, it's growing, then it's quite an interesting experience. And if we are learning to deal with emotions like this after the events that have been overwhelming, then we will catch ourselves earlier and earlier, and eventually it may be possible that even in the moment where a strong emotion comes, connected to a situation, that we remember, just instead of doing it the usual way, just watch what's happening. Stop holding on to my position and the other's position and whatever is there, but just watch what's happening. See how the emotion is affecting the physical and energetic experience and start to relax. The more we are capable of doing so, the more then that freedom is there. When an emotion comes, whether we just let it come and go, and it's passing without a trace, like a puff of air. Or sometimes we may even decide, okay, I pick up the emotion. I keep it for some time, experience a bit, and let it go. And sometimes we may decide here in this situation, it is totally justified to express it. But if we express it in such a conscious way, it's not going to turn destructive. Then we don't hurt ourselves and we don't hurt others around unnecessarily. Okay, I think we let it be with that for today, with the Satsang. I wish everybody well. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.